What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of CasonPoint. I am your host, as always, Jason Cason. I would come out and I'd apologize for taking so long to put out some content, but to be quite honest, I wouldn't say I felt silenced, but I feel like there is a lot going on in this world, and there's a lot of things that are so bad that it makes everybody jump one side to the other. You're not going to have as many people that kind of ride that fine line up the middle and agree with both parties. You have the one side and the other side. And unfortunately, in this country, that's where a lot of people sit because politics make us feel that way, which is why you will not see me talk politics on this show. It is not something, one, I'm educated in, two, I even want to be educated in, or three, give a rat's behind about. Okay? I believe in what this country does. I believe in democracy. I believe that we are the greatest country on the face of the planet. I believe that we are imperfect. And the only way that we can ever change what's going on is if we came together collectively. And having a two-party politics system, that is never going to happen. And it shows when things like this happen, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's brutally executing people of color, whether it's agreeing with protests or agreeing with a stance that a company takes or a person takes. We are always going to have hot and cold. We are never going to have the majority in a lukewarm state, which we need to be. This country was built on democracy. This country was built on collectively coming together and standing up for what we believed in. We are failing miserably. Miserably. And I am not here sitting in this chair talking into this microphone to tell you that I am perfect and I know the answers. I'm here to help everyone understand where my head's at, and hopefully you guys can see where your head's at. Because if I can come out here and use my platform to explain where I'm standing, maybe, just maybe, I can help kindle a fire on what you believe in. I can't tell you what to believe. I will not persuade you one way or the other. That is not what I'm about. That is not what I've ever been about. I am here to tell you what is going on in this thing that won't shut off and never shuts off, so you can see that you're not the only one. You're not the only one sitting there wanting to make a change but not understanding how. As a white person in this country, I love everything about African American culture. I love everything about what African Americans stand for. I love their story. How they were brought into this country, treated poorly, worse than poorly, were able to come out of it, rally together, get the people that once quote unquote owned them to rally with them and make change. But unfortunately, there are people that don't agree with that change. And because of that, we are still sitting in a society years later where these people, just like us, you cut them open, they bleed the same. And we are treating them worse than animals. And it's ridiculous. And it sickens me. My brother, not blood, but brother, is black. And I love him to death. I would take a bullet for that man. And unfortunately, he can't live life like I can. And that sucks. And guess what? I'm not sitting here telling you that I'm perfect. I've made comments in the past. I've tested that boundary between me and my brother. And because of that, I've hurt him. He's too damn nice and doesn't tell me. But looking at everything and seeing how everything goes and how people are treating other people, I cannot sit here before you today and say that I have never done anything that would be quote unquote racist. I am not a racist at all. However, I have made some poor decisions. I've made some decisions that have put me, or I've tried to put myself at a higher pedestal when that's not okay. And this is not an apology video. This episode is not here for you guys to listen and to be like, oh, he's sorry. No, that's not what this is for. This is for everyone to realize that you're in the same boat. You've made comments. You've done some things. You've made jokes. And look, I joke a lot. For those of you that know me, I joke a lot. I'll make jokes about me. I'll make jokes about anyone else. It doesn't matter, color of skin, nothing. I make jokes. But unfortunately, some of those are insensitive. And for that, I am sorry. But that's not what this video is about. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to help people understand that you can speak up. As a white person in this country, I felt silenced. And it was very frustrating when I see things where the black community is basically challenging me, telling me as a white person, staying quiet is the problem. Well, here was my initial stance. If I say something, and I say it to where the majority of the black community doesn't appreciate it, I'm now a racist. I say something that kind of pushes the boundary, I'm insensitive. I say something that is 100% black, now white people hate me. And I can give a rat's behind who loves me, who doesn't. But I want to make sure that my message is perfectly clear. And unfortunately, my initial thought was to just shut up and move on. They'll take care of it. I'm good. I know where I stand mentally. Well, lucky for me, I have a brother, like I stated before, that will not go away quietly. And he called me out on my BS. And he challenged me. And it made me really think. What is my stance? Where do I stand on this? Do I stand in the hot? Do I stand in the cold? Or do I stand in the middle? And here's what I believe. I believe everyone has a right to their opinion. We were built as a country on freedom of speech. If you believe in something, believe in it. But if you're going to use that belief to degrade and beat people up, get out. Now, if you want to use your opinion and work with people on the other side of the party, let's work together. That's what this country was built on. That's how it should have gone. But unfortunately, we have one opinion and another opinion, and those opinions can never mesh. It's always going to be right or wrong. So I'm going to tell you right now, the kneeling during the national anthem, at first, it pissed me off. I have grandfathers, great-grandfathers, uncles who have served in our military. And I did take it as a knock on the flag, 100%. I'm not going to lie to you. And I took it like that before it became a narrative. Before everyone decided that, hey, this isn't okay what they're doing. They're degrading our flag. Before Villanueva came out of his locker room, even though his team was trying to stand for the national anthem. But that wasn't why I disagreed with the kneeling in whole. That was one of my opinions. If you believe that all this racism is going on and that's how you take your stand, so be it. That's fine. I can tell you this much. If I were to take a knee at my job, if I didn't want to go into work and open the doors and I wanted to sit there before our morning meetings, they'd fire me because I'm not doing my job. And I understand that the NFL is different, but that's where my mind was at. Now, the counter arguments of how the black community also has people serving, and even back in the day there was people serving There's people serving our country that when they came home couldn't even live in the neighborhoods where they were stationed at because they didn't allow blacks. They couldn't take the bus to their schools. They couldn't take the bus to their kids' daycares because the bus only took whites. Do I know that stuff? Yes. I am well-rounded in the history. But when you think of something, when it directly impacts you, you don't necessarily look at all avenues. So at first, yes, very frustrated at the kneeling for the flag. Now, I stand here or sit here today, I don't care. If you're going to kneel in front of the flag because that's what you believe in, that's how you feel this is going to get the message across, great. I don't play sports anymore. I don't have a national anthem sung to me before I sit on this podcast. If I did, I don't know if I'd kneel or stand. I think my voice and what I would want to say would be projected in a different manner than kneeling. But I don't agree with the degrading and the further steps that Colin Kaepernick took to degrade police officers by wearing the pig socks and all that's like, it goes back to you can have an opinion. Let's work together and fix things. And I'm not here to tell you that I lived in the black communities and I understand the struggle because I don't. As much as I hear things and see things, I know it's there, but I have never personally been treated in a manner for me to tell you that it's a big deal or not a big deal. That's not why I'm here. I am telling you that I don't agree with how things get taken beyond that. And I don't agree with some of the things white people are doing. NASCAR. Let's talk about NASCAR real quick. Finally, we can talk about NASCAR. And we can talk about NASCAR because they finally took a stand. They took a stand, no more Confederate flags at their races. If you went to a NASCAR race, you were guaranteed to see at least 10 Confederate flags. Small race or big race, didn't matter. You would see it. You would see it on TV because it'd be in the center circle, all that. The NASCAR is now not allowing those into their facility. Good for you. And good for Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is the one that started this initiative. He changed his car to the Black Lives Matter car, and it is awesome. Good stance. But unfortunately, there's morons still, to this day, we are in 2020, where if I can't fly my Confederate flag, I ain't coming. Bye. See ya. Let's rotate this back to the pandemic. I work for a sales company. Right now, I'm appointment only. My doors are locked. I can only serve people for appointment. That's for 3 reasons. 1, I'm short-staffed. This pandemic has really changed a lot of staffing levels, and I don't have the means to help every single customer that walks through my door. It's also for my safety. It's also for my customer's safety. If I can keep the place clean and make sure that I'm maintaining everything that gets touched, I can keep it safe. Look, whether I agree with this pandemic or not, think it's a hoax, whatever, the fact of the matter is, that's my company's stance on it, and I'm a manager at that company, so I have to buy into it, and I run it. There are people to this day, we've been 2 months in this pandemic, that will come to my door, realize it's locked, want help. When I tell them, hey, I have to have an appointment. If you don't have an appointment, let's schedule you something, and we'll help you out. Well, you're a business, aren't you? I'm just going to take my money elsewhere. Do you think I go down to my knees and beg for a sale? No. Bye. See ya. Now, you can have an opinion on this illness. You can have an opinion that it's over, that it's too far, that I'm locking the doors. Great. And my opinion is I need to do this for my staffing levels. So here's what we can do. We can book an appointment in an hour, go grab some lunch. I'll book an appointment for you. Let's get you helped out. Or you can be a jackass and get the hell off my lot. Because if you're going to push that narrative to, oh, you just don't want to help me. Okay, fine. Bye. You're right. I don't. You can have an opinion and I can have an opinion. And those opinions need to be worked together to find common ground. It's give and take. Everything we do in life is give and take. Buy a house. Buy a house and offer them the amount of money you want to spend and tell me how that goes. Go look for a $400,000 house and offer them $200,000. Let me know how that goes. Your opinion is you want to live in this house for $2,000 or $200,000. Their opinion is my house is worth $400,000. So if your opinions are going to stay on this side, you think you're going to move into that house? Absolutely not. Now, you might be able to come to an agreement, a little give and take. You add money, they take off money. And guess what? You meet somewhere in the middle, and see you later, you're in a new house. It's the same thing with change, people. We can all have opinions. We can all believe certain things. But the fact of the matter is, there's millions and millions of people in this country, and not a single one of them has lived the exact life you did. So why don't you take your shoes off and wear theirs for a little bit? And I am not telling you this because I do that all the time and I'm perfect. I'm telling you this because this is what I'm learning as I realize that I'm a real stooge. I am very opinionated, and I am not afraid to tell you my opinion. And I will get very heated in a discussion, and I will probably look like a complete jackass if I know I'm wrong, but I'm going to still stand behind my opinion. And that's where I fault. We are not going to get anywhere like that. So for the white community trying to make the argument that George Floyd was a criminal and he shouldn't have been in that situation anyways, before you make that stance, how about you go back and you look at all the people in the black community that don't have a record? But unfortunately, they were either shot and killed or behind bars because a stigma. Because black people are dangerous. They're intimidating. It's nighttime. He probably has a gun. These things happen all the time. And I'm not telling you that it only happens to black communities. It happens to white people and Mexicans all the time. I have people of culture that work for me, and I see on a daily basis people treat them like garbage because they're a different race. I see it. I've had someone flat out come into my office, look at the gentleman that was trying to help him, who was of a different race, and said, "Nope, can I work with you, please?" and pointed to me. It wasn't because he smelt bad. It wasn't because he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's because he was a different race, and I was white. That's not okay. Guess what? I'm not all white. I'm not strictly American. I have Italian in me. I have a small, tiny portion of Native American. I'm German. I'm a melting pot, and that's what this country is. But we can't start pushing people away. It's not okay. And guess what? Everyone grieves differently. Everyone takes a stand differently. So for the black community to sit here and not want racism, yet if a white person doesn't walk with them because they're scared, they're now racist, is wrong. You don't know what that person's doing outside of or inside their house. What if they're not walking because they're scared for their children's lives? What if they have kids at home and they don't want to walk because if something happens, they don't want their kids to be a part of it. They don't want their kids to get hurt. But that same person, as soon as they get home, they're watching the riots and they're crying because they know that this should have never gone to this spot. And they're making donations for foundations and trying to help people of need. You don't know. So for you to sit there and say, hey, you're not rioting, you're not standing for us, you're a racist, sit down. That's not the case. Not every white person is racist, just like not every black person is a criminal. And guess what? Not every cop is a criminal either. I know plenty of officers of the law. Plenty. Do they do shady stuff behind my back? Maybe. But do they do great things as well? Absolutely. Do I think that sometimes cops have a little more authority than they need to? 100%. I think that cops are given a lot of leeway in cases where they shouldn't. But that doesn't mean that every cop shouldn't be a cop. When I started this, I said that I love African American culture. I grew up on rap, which is a big defining moment of that culture. I grew up playing basketball, another big part of that culture. I played with African Americans. I listened to music with African Americans. I've gone to concerts with an African American watching an African American rap. And I can tell you from day one, their message has always been the same. You can't find a rapper from the streets that raps about how great white people are and how great cops treat them. We have a problem in this country. And the problem is we don't like change. But guess what? We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for change. If someone didn't decide to stop what they were doing and move on and make some changes, we wouldn't be here. Or we would, we'd just be a different race or in a different country. But because of change, we're here. So for us to sit here and disagree with everything that's being said and not do anything about it is wrong. And when I say not do anything, that doesn't mean that you have to go riot. That doesn't mean you have to go loot. That doesn't mean that you have to call your congressman. What it means is be a good citizen. Be a good person. It's okay to get upset when the dude cuts you off. It's okay to be upset when the person that should have held the door open but let it close, it's okay to be mad at that person. But it is not okay to judge someone because of the color of their skin. Where I really saw it was a couple years ago. My son, who is about to be 4, we went to my brother's house. This is the first time that my son was able to hang out with his godfather and actually understand human interaction. Obviously, my brother had come down and, met him and held him and put his clothes on incorrectly. But once he was able to speak and understand how things kind of work in this world, we took a trip to see them. They just had their first child. So we wanted to see the baby, hang out with them. It was the first time my son got to actually have an interaction with his godfather without, having any barriers. And what really clicked for me was my son, he's very shy. And it'll take him, doesn't matter who you are, it'll take him a while to kind of get acclimated to you. But once he's acclimated to you, he's all over the place. He wasn't shy. He walked right up to my brother. First, he was like, oh, we were hyping him up because he's a police officer and he really wanted to see the police car. And when we got there, my brother's great with my son in the first place, but the connection that was there right off the bat was just like if it was me and my son. And my son and their son, who can't walk, can't talk, can barely open his eyes. My son wants everything to do with this kid. And he doesn't technically know him yet. My son didn't see color. He saw a person. He saw a little person that he really wanted to play with. And he saw an older person that seemed like he was really fun. He didn't see that he was black. He didn't see that their son was black. He saw a person. When people grow up and they start developing these traits, it's because they're embedded with stigmas. There's things that are put in their heads from history books, from experiences, from stories, from jokes. I was lucky enough to grow up in a community that had a lot of different races. Growing up in Southern California, you have a ton of different races everywhere. So yes, I heard the jokes. I had cousins that were older than me that were in high school as I was going through elementary school. I had multiple family members that were much older than me that would, say jokes at parties that I would hear and pick up and listen to things and make me want to do more research. That didn't make me a racist because I grew up with these people. I grew up with everybody. Sure, they might have talked a little different. Sure, they might do things differently, but that didn't make me hate them or not want to be a part of what they were doing. We have people that want to identify one race as a specific thing and teach that to their kids, which then creates a long line of generations who believe that same thing. And it's time it stops. I'm here to tell you that it is okay to be a white person and speak up. It is okay to voice your opinion. And if you want to be anyone else of a different race that believes in one thing, and a white person comes out and says something and you're immediately going to tout them as a racist, pump the brakes. Just like we need to pump the brakes. I cannot sit here in front of you and tell you that I don't jump to conclusions. That's why this has opened my eyes. And that is the problem, is we have people like me who are not a racist, but we jump to conclusions because we see trends and we think that that's the norm. Reach out, learn, educate yourself. There are people in this country, still, it is 2020, and there are people in this country that are their houses are being broken into by law enforcement because of a rumor, because of a common whereabout for another person that they're looking for that isn't even guilty. There are people behind bars, black, white, Mexican, that aren't guilty, that are behind bars because of stigmas. Blacks especially. And this trickles all the way into law enforcement. There's people in law enforcement that speak up and get fired. There are people that are trying to make change everywhere, but you don't see it because there's not a camera everywhere. We live in a generation where we expect a camera to be everywhere. But that's not the case. That's not the case at all. There are people that are working in Congress as law enforcement officials, as firefighters, in hospitals that are trying to make change, that are trying to do things for the better. But because it wasn't caught on camera, we don't believe it. Because everything that is caught on camera wants to be the focus point. But guess what? Videos go viral because of opinions. Do you ever see a video that has 5 million views that's just a normal dude hanging out with people? No. Why? Because it doesn't appeal to the masses. And those masses being someone that has an opinion, which will create a counter opinion from someone else. You see two types of videos that go viral. The extremely sweet and oh my God, that was amazing videos, or the oh my God, this guy's a POS. That's it. You see the military coming back before basketball games and surprising the family. You see those videos all the time. You see black guys fighting in an alley and the cops chasing them down all the time. You don't see the videos of the two friends that have a family going to the park and their kids hanging out and they do some funny stuff. That's maybe 2%. And that video would have to be extremely funny to even be visible. It's time for change. And it starts with us. Don't look at someone else and say it starts with them, because that's not the case. It's all of us. We all have to come together. We all have to rally together, even if we don't agree with everything. But I can sit here and I can say, I don't agree with this, but I do agree with this. I don't agree with this, but this isn't okay. I don't agree with how George Floyd died. It's sickening. It's disgusting. And shame on the officers for not just taking a life, but shame on them for now creating a vision of all officers and creating a vision that all black people that have a criminal background deserve to be treated like this. It's not okay. And we have to come together. And we have to voice our opinions. And we have to educate ourselves. We cannot sit here and think that we know everything. I did not grow up on Rosecrans. I did not live in a house that has 16 windows, but I can only see out of one of them because all of them are boarded up. I didn't. I was very fortunate. I never, ever was put in a situation where I felt like someone else of a different race was treating me poorly because I'm white. The last episode, I sat down with Jonathan Davis and we had a brief conversation about the first time I met his family. You would have thought that I was a different skin color. They treated me like their own. That is how it should be. My best friend is a different color, and his family is a different color. And they brought me in as an 8-year-old and treated me like I was one of their own. That is what we need. And guess what? I'm white, and there are white people that I don't like. And that's okay too. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to go around and throw stones at their house. It has to stop. And unfortunately, white people, we started this. So we have to help start this initiative. It was our grandparents and our great-grandparents and our great-great-great-grandparents that grew up in an era where it was okay. And it's not okay. It should have never been okay. But don't try to make excuses as to why it is what it is and we just need to get over it. Because no, we don't. People are dying that don't deserve to die. Whites, blacks, doesn't matter. They're dying. And it's not okay. I was actually going to talk about sports. And we still have time to. But I was challenged. And I want everyone to see what's in here in hopes that maybe you feel somewhat the same. There are great podcasts out there. There are great books to read. There are great articles to read. Heck, I even encourage you to go watch some of the videos that are heavily opinionated just so you can educate yourself. There are people that stand way left that they killed a black person, racist, kill them, take all rights away from police officers. Read that stuff. Watch that stuff. It might not sit well with you, but watch it. That's where their mind's at. And then there's people on this side that Who cares? He was a criminal, all this. If you educate yourself on both sides and develop your own opinions, I don't know why my computer's doing it. It's really pissing me off. But if you educate yourself on both sides and you can come together or at least develop your own opinion, that's another problem with us. And I don't want to go on another tangent, but have a sense of your own opinion. Don't let these media articles and videos and people of power tell you what you should feel. If you watch a video and it makes you sad, that made you sad. Don't then watch another video where they're like, oh, you shouldn't feel sad because of this, 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 and this. Be like, yeah, that's what I feel. No, that's not what you feel. How did you feel when you first watched it? Sad? Cool. Run with it. Voice your own opinion. Speak up for yourself. Don't let people put words in your mouth. I love you guys. Thank you for allowing me to use this platform to talk. Hopefully this sparks something. Who knows? If it doesn't, oh well, it's there if you want it. Now to sports, because that's what we are. We are a sports show. Speaking of sports, we're going to dip right back into the racism thing. Sorry, one more point. You watch sports, and most of those sports, basketball, football, even baseball, overpopulated by multiple races. Don't sit here and cheer for them and then be against them off the field. That makes you a hypocrite. And that pisses me off. I'm done. Now, sports. Big things happening. Let's talk about it. Sports are coming back. Holy moly. MMA, killing it. If you didn't watch the 250 card, watch some highlights. There's some sweet battles. What they're doing is UFC actually has a facility in Vegas that they train athletes and do a lot of programs with. And they actually use that facility to create UFC Apex, where they can host fights and do cards during this whole quarantine. No fans, just officials, refs, things of that nature, teams of the fighter. The cool thing is the octagon's a little smaller, which is making people fight more in closer range. So it's not a lot of dancing or maneuvering. It's a lot of quick reactions. So we saw a lot of knockouts. We're going to see a lot more knockouts. Dana White has also secured an island in Abu Dhabi, and it's called Fight Island, and they're doing UFC cards over in Abu Dhabi, where the fighters that aren't here in America can travel to and fight, which is cool. Now that transitions, because they're doing that, now golf is back. Now NASCAR's back. Now soccer's coming back. And then basketball. And then hockey. And then football. Baseball, we'll get to that later. But soccer, starting early July, they're actually going to do like a World Cup style tournament in Florida, which is going to be the hub for a lot of these sports. Walt Disney World has opened their doors for these sports. They have a giant sports complex. So soccer is going to be doing a World Cup style tournament early July. I believe it's like 45 or 54 games. I'm dyslexic, so I don't know what numbers though. I'm not really dyslexic. It's an excuse. It's either 45 or 54 games, but they're going to do a World Cup style tournament where you're going to have multiple groups and you're going to delegate into the actual tournament, and then you're going to play elimination games, and then a winner will be crowned. That's how the MLS season is going to end. And then the NBA is going to be doing something very similar, but it's a little more complicated. The NBA is going to bring 2 or 22 teams into Orlando, Florida. They're going to play the rest of the season. So any of the teams that were 6 games back from making the playoffs, that's why you're going to have more than, 16 teams make the playoffs in the NBA, but they extended it to where if you were within 6 games of making the playoffs, you're going to have a little play-in time to try to get into the playoffs, and then they're going to seed you top 1 through 16. It's not going to be by conference. So the 1 seed, if it's the Bucks, and the 16 seed is the Pelicans, doesn't matter that one's in the East and one's in the West, they will play each other. Awesome. Great for the game. Yes, 100%. There will be an asterisk next to all these champions, but sports are back, and that's what's important. Sports are a big part of this culture, American culture. we thrive on sports stories, sports figures, the game itself, all of it. There are a lot of people that are doing amazing things in this world, and they attribute a lot of what they've learned to playing sports their entire life, learning the team aspect of something. There's a lot of lessons that can be learned in sports, and to have sports back is really making this feel like we're going to come out of this. Now, hockey is going to do something very similar to basketball as well, where they're going to have basically all the playoff teams that would have made the playoffs, plus a couple extras. They're going to come in and they're going to do a similar tournament. And it's going to be for the quote-unquote COVID Cup. And they're going to play an elimination-style tournament. Now, they're going to do it a little differently. It's not going to be in Orlando, Florida. They're going to open it up to 2 hub cities. And those 2 hub cities are going to host the games for whichever travel plans make sense. Right now, I believe Vegas is a lock. So a lot of the West Coast teams and Midwest teams will be stationed in Vegas. And then they're trying to find a team up in Canada that can get a lot of the northern teams and the Canadian teams to travel to be a hub. Now, the problem with those styles is the governments have to open everything up for them. Until that happens, they can't do it. So that's what they're working on right now. That's why nothing's official. NHL did announce that this is their plan. This is what everyone's agreeing to. We just have steps to take to make this happen. So that's where they're at. Baseball. Baseball's a mess. Baseball is in a much different scenario. Baseball makes a lot of their money off local markets. So baseball has to have each team play at their home stadium. If they play at hub stadiums, they're going to lose a lot of money because a lot of the money they make is off of Fox Sports Southwest, Fox Sports Northwest, Fox Sports Pittsburgh. Because of those local TV deals, they're bringing in a lot of revenue. Without that revenue, it doesn't make sense to even have a season. So you have the owners that have that information, and then you have the players that not just signed, but they're in a collective bargaining agreement to where a lot of their contracts were guaranteed. So a lot of these players should be getting paid X amount of money, but because they're not going to play a full season, the owners aren't going to pay them the full season's pay. Players don't like that. And there's a lot of players that are still believing that this coronavirus is serious. And they don't want to play because it's dangerous to them. And they're going to be away from their families for X amount of days in this quarantine, lockdown while they play baseball, and that's not worth it to them. So the owners aren't budging on price, the players aren't budging on what they want to do, so you're at a stalemate. And it's to the point where the MLB is making offers and the MLPA is crumbling it up and just throwing it away. Not reading it, not making a counteroffer. Until you meet our demands, we're not even talking. You're going to have one of 2 things. The thing that's very interesting is Jeff Passan of ESPN reported that the players, since they are in a contractual agreement, going on strike is illegal. Therefore, all of their contracts would be null and void. So if Mike Trout decided to go on strike, the Angels can pull his contract, all $4 billion of it, and say, nope, you don't get it anymore because you're illegally picketing or you're illegally protesting. You're illegally going on strike. So your money's now null and void. So the players obviously don't want to do that. And the owners know that. So that's why there's this one-sided push and the players aren't giving anything because they know eventually they're going to have to come to an agreement, but they want it to be close to what they want. Basically, the players want more games so they get paid more, and they want a 75% pro rate. So no matter what, no matter how many games they play, they're going to get paid this amount of money. And then if players have bonuses or things of that nature, they play more games so they can get those bonuses. Here's where baseball gets even weirder. Baseball is a different sport. Not all players play every single day. You have pitchers that play, only 30 games in a season. Well, now they're only going to play 8, 10, if that. So these pitchers they're not in their normal schedule, which I don't know if you've noticed, but doing this arm motion a lot starts to hurt. Well, now put a baseball in your hand and try to throw it 100 miles an hour. It hurts even more. So now you're doing this without all the reps. You're doing this without all the proper downtime and the proper cooling time. It's going to ruin your arm. Having said that, now you're only pitching, 10 games. You're not as exhausted at the end of the year. You're throwing gas all throughout the season. Now the hitters aren't seeing what they would normally see as the season progresses. They're getting a shorter time to pick up pitches and learn trends and get into their rhythm, and then boom, season's over. Or boom, playoff time. I'm going to throw this computer out a window. So that's where baseball's at. I would not be surprised if one of two things happen in baseball. One, players go on strike or come to an agreement where they're not going to play. The league's going to go on and replacement players come in. Or baseball doesn't have a season. We're in June now. All-Star break. Halfway through the season is July. So if you think hockey and basketball are coming back, they were over halfway done with the season. Baseball's going to have the entire half of the season already gone. By the way, their preseason was cut in half. So now the players are going to have to warm up again. So if they announce, let's say miraculously they come to an agreement, and they say July 1st, baseball's back. You're going to have a week to 2 weeks of camp. Then you're going to have some preseason games. Well, now you're in August. Guess what? Season normally ends in October. You're going to play for 2 months? Then what? You're going to tell the players that they have a couple months off and then they have to start the season again? No. It's not the case. Now, hockey and basketball are actually in talks, and this is why it's not fully agreed yet. Hockey and basketball are actually in talks to push the following season back just a little bit, which will kind of make sense for everything to flow. Because the fact of the matter is these leagues will really start getting affected if this carries into the next season. We're through the majority of most of these league seasons. So financially wise, or finances, all that stuff is all really accounted for and planned for. They're not going to sell. They're not going to go bankrupt because right now they have a good plan on nothing happening. Well, if it carries into next season, now we have a problem. Because now it's 2 years with no income, and these leagues cost a lot of money to employ people, cost a lot of money to keep the venues open, cost a lot of money to pay the players. Look, if you don't have players and you don't have fans, you don't have a league. Look at the XFL. XFL is a bad example. Look at the AAFL. Look at the Arena Football League. You don't make it if you don't have fans. And you don't make it when you don't have fans because you don't have players. If you had players that were good and entertaining, you'd have fans. But if you don't have either of those, you're done. And these teams know that, which is why they're really trying not to have it affect the next season. But for basketball, if you look at basketball season, starts in October, ends in June. That's a long time. October to November, everyone's watching football. Christmas games is like technically when the NBA season starts. Because of all the narratives with Paul George and Kawhi versus LeBron and AD, you had a lot of good games early. First game of the season, Clippers, Lakers, you had those. That was entertaining. It'd tune you in. But you weren't watching consistently from October to December. Why? Because football was on. So basketball and hockey, another sport that starts in October, it's a blessing in disguise. Kick it back to December, it's playoff time for football. So there's only 2 games every weekend. You have that entire week to yourself. Start the season then. I would not be surprised if we get so happy that sports are back that come December time, we're really watching hockey and basketball, and hockey and basketball make this a permanent change. Would not be surprised. But baseball, ouch. Baseball was supposed to be our saving grace. Baseball was pandemic hit. Baseball hasn't started yet. We're going to be fine. We're going to push it back a couple weeks. It'll be fine. Baseball will be back. No worries. They haven't even started their season yet. They'll kick it off eventually. Now here we are. 2 leagues that have already started are going to finish, and baseball, who hasn't started, might not happen. Football, business as usual. Training camps are going to be a little bit different. I think end of July 27th or 28th, teams will start reporting to training camp, like all players. Generally, rookies and veterans get to show up a little earlier, but or rookies, not veterans. Rookies get to show up a little earlier, and then veterans show up after. But everything's in play. The Hall of Fame game's in play. Everything's in play. Nothing for football seems like it's changing. Baseball's the one worry here. So, if you can take anything from this episode, just know this. I will always speak my mind. I will always speak my opinion. I encourage you to have your own opinion and speak your mind as well. We are in difficult times, and we all need to come together. Black, white, doesn't matter. We need to come together. And I believe in us. We've been through a lot. There's a lot that has happened in this country, and we come back stronger than ever. 9/11, ever heard of it? It happens, and we have to come together. If we don't come together, we're done. And I believe in us. To end this on a happy note, we got some big news. Big news. Big news. We talked a couple episodes ago that CasonPoint was going to branch into a network. Well, we have come to an agreement on our very first additional podcast. That podcast is going to be featuring yours truly and a very familiar name that you've seen. I've done some work with this individual. He goes by the name of Mediocre Panda. He is a Twitch streamer. He streams video games. And we are going to come together and we are going to do a podcast about entertainment. Video games, comic books, movies, TV shows, things that are happening in our culture that remind us of what we've seen or what we've done in a video game or seen in a movie, what have you. That's what that show is going to be about. And I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm super stoked about it. And I know it's going to be super funny material. And it's going to have a lot of good insight for everybody. I just realized that there's a damn ladder in this video. I'm not going to edit it because then that joke wouldn't make any sense. But it's going to be a really fun time, and I am super excited about it, and we're not done there. We're trying to add more podcasts to get you more content because that's what we're about. And what I'm about is you guys listening to my dumb head speak into a microphone and enjoy it. There are other people that have much better brains than me that deserve to be in front of a microphone, and I am here to grant that platform to them. So, starting in a couple weeks, we will announce it, but our entertainment podcast will be live, and we're going to be doing some pretty sweet episodes, and I'm very excited. Now, to kick that show off, we are going to do a segment on video game streamers. It's something that I really have, I wouldn't say fallen in love with, but really started appreciating. Video game streaming is an extremely difficult job. And not a lot of people understand the ins and the outs of it. People hear video games and like, dude sits on his butt and plays video games all day. Well, you're not wrong, most of the time. But we're going to have the opportunity to sit down with streamers and talk about their daily life. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk about their impact, their vision, and really shine a light on that position because it deserves to be shined on. And I am super stoked about it. There are some great things happening here in beautiful Idaho on this stupid microphone. And I'm stoked, and I can't wait for you guys to be a part of it. So thank you all for listening. I appreciate you guys. Again, I'm always here. Hit me up. Let's talk. If we need to discuss something heated or not, let's do it. I'm here for you. And as we end every episode, I appreciate you guys. And as always, may the sports be with you.